Okay, guys, I'm back here for a look at silver here now. That was number 2 on our polling today. So I've got a daily chart up here. I'm using the CFD, the XAG to the USD here. Now, yeah, we can. So this is a daily chart. Yeah, sure, we can get a count on this. Likely some sort of a WXYXZ. I to tell you the truth, I don't know that it really matters to us right here. There's a few things that are worth noting here. It's just no surprise here. It's trades technically just like they all do. So we look here. So from this swing to this, look at this triple bottom down we had here at 26 and change, right up to the golden zone, then to the 50. Then here's the reaction at the target. Ultimately gets second target, and then we've gone through that as well. So interestingly, you can note here that we get from this golden zone, we get initial, and then we get second target, and then we do it again. We come right. This is the retracement of this. I'm using the secondary pivot. This, well, let me see. Shit, you can't see it. So let me get this off of here so you can just see that how this continues. So here's the next retracement we get that's of any significance from this move down here. Although it's shallow, it doesn't make the 50, but we get something we can use for a pull. We go again right into the golden zone, like literally to the 65. Now that has a target down here is unrealized. Of course, you got to be aware of that. But I don't, of course, just because we have a target doesn't mean it must be realized. But we need to know it's there. But right now, we do have a pivot. We have what appears to be a potential reaction off of that with a motive wave. So we can look in there and see if indeed we have the potential for a pivot to be going in. That we'd finish down here, so we wouldn't be getting to an algo target, which again, just because they're there doesn't mean that it must get there. But you want to know that that's there, so if you're wrong and it starts to break down where a likely target is. So, but I'm not going to use that within this analysis here. So let me go. Oh, let's try the 3 hour here. See how that looks. So let's see here. So first thing, all right, so here's the last significant dominant pivot before we head down. So as we would with anything, we check it. So lo and behold, what do we do? Right to the 618 to the tick. All right, so I'm using this is the last swing before we head down. I'm just going dominant high to dominant low. Boom, right to the golden zone, right? Doesn't matter, guys. I tell you this 1,000 times. Same thing every market, every time. That's to the tick, right? So now, of course, that will have a target below us, right? So we've got a target down here at 12. It's called $13. So if indeed this is going to end up being corrective, well, we'd have yet another target down here that we'd be going after closer to well, let's call it 12. We'll call it $13. Remember, the very large target was down here around $10. This Z that we were looking at, where we drew that larger one. So we're correcting something here. There is a case, although it is a bit ugly. There is a case for a motive wave. You've got to squeeze an impulse into it, so you can see if this is the 4, this is the 1. We've got an impulse. The 5 is a bit squirrely. So we got to know these are down here. So 13, 12, 10. We've got some lower targets that are just straight algo plays. It's time for a reboot. My machine is acting squirrely today. So looking at what we've done here, this is a little tricky because of the 5th, and it looks like there's a news event in here that gave us this spike. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's all just fine and well, but to try and get the 5th to complete, because you have this sell-off spike and then the abrupt sell-off, certainly looks news related. Interestingly, you got to work an impulse, right? Because if this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't overlap the 1. Now this is a tough one, trying to get that 5, because you have to allow for this very deep 4, but it doesn't overlap. So you get a does it? Yeah, you do get a, if this is the 1, right, the 4, we go interesting right to the Vegas wave. Then the straight rip up, and then it's sold off. So that was February 26th. Oh shit, I can't remember what was there, but that looks very news driven here. So then up, so buy the rumor, sell the fact, kind of a thing happening there. So it's a pretty good rip straight down. Shit, where does that go from? Man, that's a pretty good rip there. So we went from 16 and a quarter down to, call it 15. That's a pretty good sell off in silver. Now, coming off of that, so if indeed we've got this correctly identified and we do have what would be a one wave here, we're starting to correct that. Now, we've come right back in, so the structure seems to have held it here. We've gone deep, so here's our point of control. Now, this is visible range, so here's where we have market acceptance based on all of this trading that took place here. Now, we have gone deep, not too deep for a let's get that on there, for a second wave, but we've broken the golden zone, so we lose the buy side algo on us. So let me get that off here. So as an Elliott trader, we look there and we go, okay, well, of course, we'd prefer to have an algo behind us, or for us to step in behind them, I should say. But we lose it. Now, so we can look here and say, all right, well, that's a point of concern, certainly, but do we have all of the ingredients to support the idea that we catch a potential pivot down here with some good risk reward? So the straight rip down here, you know, yeah, I'm on a 3 hour, but digging any subdivision out of that, right, it's just going to be impossible to do. So I have to give it something. So I would call that my A wave. I got a nice 3 into my B here, and as I recall, this was close to a 50. Oh, pardon me, it was right on a 50. So that's right. So I've done this so many today. So here's this, right? So yeah, sure, it gets through, and I was just going to structure. It's hard to say, right? So it could be that there was another algo pull here on a smaller degree that was in play there. Either way, the sell at the 50 realizes target, and in fact, with some extra cushion to it. So now let me pull this off here. Okay, so I've got a good A, B. Now it looks like I'm trying to finish a C here, but at this point it does appear that we've got an ending diagonal to finish this. So we've got a target down here, let's call it 1440. Got a fairly nicely established channel that brings us down here. So looking for some confluence, I just took the length of the A projected from the B. There's 100%. Now I've got from the B through the pivot here. If we're going to come back up, which it does look like it's trying to, if we're going to get a 3 wave here to come back to our 50, then that is a nice looking setup right there. All right, so it's not that it must happen. It's just that's a probability setup. So look at all the things you have here. So you have a combination of things. So remember, if it's a diagonal, we want to look for as much confluence as we possibly can. So if I put this on, so if let's see, let me get this off so where you can see it. So if I put it over here, right? So here would be the 38 right on top of the golden zone. So if this is going to go a little higher, I've got the 38 from the pivot. I've got from the B through the 1 through the 3. Remember, if it's a diagonal, it's not only that we're looking for the retracement from the pivot that we have down here in the C, it's this pattern that I'm retracing. It's the 1 here into the 2, there's the 3. Now I'm looking for the 50 because I need it to overlap the 1. So I'm looking for the 50, so I have the 50 in the golden zone there, so I have a perfect setup zone to take that short. Now, right now, I've had a deep, if indeed we're going to get an ABC into the 4 here, and 50 is actually higher probability in a diagonal. But shit. But we've got a nice hot box here that we can set up. So I would do it this way. So there's your entry box. I would not let it go beyond the 65. Just no need, right? Look how close the 2 would be. If it's going to get that askew here and the symmetry is going to break down that much, the odds then of going to target start to break down. So I'm looking for the entry at the 50. Now I do like this trade. So you've got look how we get all this prior structure here, right? So resistance, pardon me, support, resistance. Now we're going to come back up here. Maybe we go to the upper edge of it. We're looking for it at the 50. We know software will kick in to sell it. So the trade that I'm looking for in here is that right there. Right, and then we get a nice double target down here. Well, you've got a combination. You've got the 100, the 2 algo targets right here. So you've got a nice setup for a short there. Right, keep that in mind. So now here, because you're using the CFD, I would you just take this straight short with your FX broker. Or if you're trading in futures, you could do it as well. It's a little bit, you're more prone to some overnight gappage, if you're doing it in the with the futures market. I'd likely do it with the CFD myself, right? So this is setting up here, but we've got a ways to go until we get there. We're actually sort of struggling here to make this retrace. So if I look here, what puts us at 1478 is where we're kind of falling away. Let me go down. Let's go to the hourly. So this is going to need to get a little kick here to avoid falling over too much. So if it's A, B, right? So that's deep for a B, but we stay internal. So if this is going to go A, B, we need to get that C. Now I wouldn't go too much below the hourly to try and get my 5 out of that. I just want to see it get in this range. So I like it up here at around 15 bucks, maybe a little front run on that. I would not give it anything beyond the 65. So yeah, that's up to your individual trade plan, right? And then of course, if we're using a CFD, we don't have to. We can do it incrementally, right? So you can use the mini and take something that's appropriate to your risk tolerance if you want to give it that much room. So always better to reduce the size and use the market to tell you when you're wrong, rather than say, oh well, I can only afford to take X amount and I want to trade a full size contract. I would suggest to you trade the smaller increment and give yourself more room on the stop rather than try and do it big but risk getting just wicked out through some just normal noise in the market. That's what I would do. Right? So first we got to get there. Right? We got a bit of a ways to go here. So what are we at? 1478. We're looking for entry up here 1510, somewhere in that range. So one to be watching. I do like this trade if it sets up. Now, so it's simple, okay, guys. So set an alert. Oh, I'd probably set it here at the 38 so that I was alerted to the fact that we were approaching that target, right? And then I'd be sitting up here. Now again, you don't necessarily need to sit here with a limit order. Let it get there, assuming it. Well, so that's always the challenge, right? So if it's not there and it's wherever you are in the world and you're going into your overnight, you're going to be going to sleep. Well, then you got to make a decision as to whether you want to leave a limit order there. It could certainly do that, and then you miss the trade. So if it was me, right? So if this were happening and I saw that and it's the middle of the week and I'm thinking, if that's going to fill, it's going to fill overnight. Again, right? Just hypothetically, I would have a smaller size entry here so that if it does pivot and it's technical and they make the turn there and I'm asleep for it, I'm not overly exposed with something that's too big. So I might take that knowing that if it starts to come down, I want a piece of it, but at some point there'll be a little retrace into the 2 of the 5. So that would give me that chance to add if I don't get the size that I want because the initial fill happened while I was asleep. Be my suggestion. Right, so definitely one to be watching here. Right? I like that setup there. And one, you got a lot of options about how you approach that. All right, guys, there you go. Okay, talk to you later.